All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into Palm Sunday, but with a bit of a twist.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at it through the lens of a YouTube script for a podcast from the Malankara Orthodox tradition.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a deep dive within a deep dive.
Okay.
And trust me, it's going to add some really fascinating layers to how we understand this event.
It is fascinating to see how different Christian traditions, interpret and celebrate the same event.
Exactly. And this particular script really stood out to me because it emphasizes a really unique aspect of Palm Sunday, the role of children. In fact, in this tradition, it's also known as Boys and Girls Day.
Oh, wow.
I'm really curious to kind of unpack that more with you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to highlight the importance of intergenerational faith.
Yeah.
And the idea that even the youngest members of the church have a crucial role to play.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, let's set the stage for our listeners.
Okay.
So, picture Jesus entering Jerusalem, right? Not on a powerful war horse, as you might expect a king to do, but on a donkey.
A very deliberate choice, wouldn't you say?
I think so, especially when you consider the crowd surrounding him, waving palm branches, shouting Hosanna.
Yeah.
It's a scene full of symbolism, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And the choice of the donkey is key here. It directly challenges our assumptions about power and leadership.
Right.
Instead of a show of force, we see an embodiment of humility.
It's almost subversive, isn't it? Jesus, the one who is prophesied to be king, arrives in such an unassuming way.
Right.
What do you think that tells us about his message?
I think it speaks volumes about the nature of his kingship.
Yeah.
It's not about earthly power dominance or control,
Yeah.
but about service, compassion, and love.
Which is so fascinating because, we know from the Gospels that these same crowds who welcomed him with such enthusiasm would later demand his crucifixion.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty dramatic shift.
It certainly is. And it raises some interesting questions about the fickleness of human nature, doesn't it?
It does. And it also makes you wonder what was going through Jesus's mind as he rode into Jerusalem knowing what lay ahead.
That's where the insights of St. Ephrem the Syrian become particularly illuminating.
Okay.
He was a 4th century theologian and hymn writer who reflected very deeply on the events of Holy Week.
And what was his take on Palm Sunday?
He saw Jesus' entry into Jerusalem as an act of radical love, not a display of force.
Okay.
He referred to Jesus as the Lamb of God,
Interesting.
already connecting Palm Sunday to the sacrifice of the crucifixion.
So he saw this event as the beginning of Jesus's passion, the path to the cross.
Exactly. And that's a perspective that's deeply embedded in the Malankara Orthodox tradition as well.
Okay.
For them, Palm Sunday is both a celebration and a preparation, a recognition that joy and sorrow are often intertwined.
That makes me think about the Old Testament readings that are often associated with Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
The script we're looking at specifically mentions Genesis 49 and 1 Samuel 2.
Both of those readings tie in beautifully with the themes we've been discussing. But Genesis 49 speaks about the scepter not departing from Judah, a clear reference to the lineage of King David and the prophecy of a coming Messiah.
So it connects Jesus back to that royal lineage, establishing him as the rightful heir.
Precisely. And then you have 1 Samuel 2, which tells the story of the young Samuel and his unwavering faithfulness to God.
And that ties into the Malankara Orthodox tradition of Boys and Girls Day, right?
It does. It emphasizes the importance of passing on the faith to younger generations and recognizing that children have a vital role to play in the church.
I'm curious to learn more about that tradition. What exactly does Boys and Girls Day involve? What makes it so unique to this particular branch of Christianity?
Well, what's fascinating is, within the Malankara Orthodox Church, Palm Sunday, it becomes a real celebration of the energy and enthusiasm that children bring to the faith.
Oh, wow.
You'll see processions with children carrying palm branches,
Wow.
special hymns and readings focused on children,
Okay.
and even plays or skits depicting the events of Palm Sunday from a child's perspective.
That sounds incredible. It's almost like they're reenacting the scene from the Gospels where the children are shouting Hosanna in the temple.
Exactly. And it's such a powerful reminder that Jesus himself welcomed and valued the presence of children.
Right.
Remember, he even rebuked his disciples when they tried to shoo the children away.
That's right. He said, "Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these."
It's a really powerful statement that affirms the importance of that childlike faith,
Yeah.
that sense of wonder and trust that we often lose as we grow older.
It makes me think about how Palm Sunday itself is a call to approach our faith with that same kind of openness and humility.
Right.
We have Jesus the King who chooses to ride on a donkey surrounded by children who recognize him as the Messiah.
Yeah.
It's a scene that really challenges our preconceived notions of power and authority.
Absolutely. And it's a challenge that's relevant not just for individuals, but for the church as a whole. How often do we get caught up in structures and hierarchies and lose sight of that simple childlike faith?
It's a good question to ask ourselves, especially during Holy Week, as we journey towards the cross. How can we maintain that sense of humility and vulnerability?
Palm Sunday offers us a roadmap,
Okay.
a reminder that true strength often lies in embracing our weaknesses, in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and open to God's grace.
It's about letting go of our need to be in control and surrendering to a power greater than ourselves.
And that's where the connection to those Old Testament readings becomes even more powerful.
Okay.
Genesis 49, with its emphasis on the lineage of King David, reminds us that God's plan unfolds over generations.
It's a long game, isn't it? And it requires patience, trust, and a willingness to play our part in that larger story.
And then you have 1 Samuel 2, which focuses on the faithfulness of the young Samuel.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even children can have a profound impact on the course of history.
So it's not just about adults teaching children about faith, but also about children reminding adults of what it means to truly believe.
Precisely. And that's what makes the Malankar Orthodox tradition of Boys and Girls Day so inspiring.
Yeah.
It's a recognition that faith is a journey we take together, young and old, supporting and learning from one another.
It's beautiful to think about those processions with the children carrying palm branches, their voices echoing the hosannas of the crowds who welcome Jesus into Jerusalem. It brings the story to life in such a vibrant way.
And it reminds us that Palm Sunday is not just a historical event, but a living tradition that continues to shape and inspire us today.
So as we reflect on the meaning of Palm Sunday, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What can we learn from this event that can help us navigate our own journeys of faith?
I think there are 3 key things that stand out.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the importance of humility. Jesus' choice to enter Jerusalem on a donkey challenges us to approach our faith and our lives with a sense of humility, recognizing that true strength lies in service and love, not in power and dominance.
I love that humility as a source of strength. What's the second takeaway?
Second, the power of childlike faith. The enthusiasm of the children who welcome Jesus reminds us to approach our faith with wonder, trust, and a willingness to let go of our need to control everything.
It's about embracing that sense of awe and mystery that often gets lost as we get older. And finally, the third takeaway.
Third, the interconnectedness of generations. The Malankara Orthodox tradition of Boys and Girls Day highlights the importance of passing on the faith to younger generations and recognizing that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of the church.
It's about recognizing that faith is a gift we receive and a responsibility we pass on. We're all part of a larger story that spans generations.
Exactly. And Palm Sunday reminds us that this story is full of twists and turns, moments of joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy. It's a journey that requires us to hold on to hope even in the face of darkness.
Because ultimately, Palm Sunday is not just about remembering the past, but about preparing for the future. It's about recognizing that the journey to the cross is also a journey towards resurrection, and that even in the midst of suffering, God's love is always present.
And that's a message that resonates deeply, no matter what our background or beliefs may be.
It certainly does. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope, and that love ultimately triumphs.
And that's the beauty of exploring these different faith traditions. It opens our minds to new ways of understanding familiar stories and challenges us to deepen our own faith.
It's about finding those universal truths that connect us all regardless of our differences.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive into Palm Sunday so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's not just about acquiring knowledge,
Right.
but about transforming ourselves, becoming more compassionate, more understanding, and more deeply connected to the divine.
So as we move into the final part of this deep dive, let's keep these insights in mind. Let's reflect on how we can embody humility, embrace childlike faith, and nurture the bonds between generations.
And most importantly, let's remember that Palm Sunday is not just a day on the calendar, but an invitation to live our lives with a renewed sense of hope and purpose.
It's a call to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, the humble king, who chose to ride on a donkey surrounded by children who recognized him as the Messiah.
And it's a reminder that even in the midst of uncertainty and suffering, God's love is always with us, guiding us towards a future filled with hope and possibility.
Now, I know our listeners are probably brimming with their own thoughts and insights. What aspects of this deep dive resonated with you the most?
Did you know about the Malankar Orthodox tradition of Boys and Girls Day?
What are some ways you see the themes of humility, childlike faith, and intergenerational connection playing out in your own lives?
We would love to hear your thoughts.
Share your comments, and let's continue the conversation. We believe that faith is best explored together in a spirit of open-mindedness and curiosity.
And who knows, maybe your insights will spark a whole new deep dive.
But before we wrap up, let's leave you with a final thought. To ponder, if Jesus chose to enter Jerusalem with such humility, knowing the suffering that awaited him, what does that challenge us to do in our own lives?
How can we embody that same spirit of humility, faithfulness, and preparation in our own journeys?
Those are some pretty profound questions, to consider not just during Holy Week, but throughout our lives.
Yeah, Palm Sunday, it really serves as a powerful reminder that faith, it isn't about just passive observance.
Right.
But about actively engaging with the challenges and opportunities, presented to us.
It's about living out the values we see embodied in Jesus.
Right.
Humility, compassion, service, and a deep abiding love for others.
And, even though we've been focusing on the Malakara Orthodox tradition,
right,
these themes, they really resonate across different branches of Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of exploring faith is discovering these universal truths that bind us together.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Palm Sunday, let's each take a moment to consider what Hosanna truly means to us.
How can we welcome the coming week, not just with celebration,
right,
but also with that same spirit of humility and readiness that Jesus modeled for us?
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of Palm Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
We hope it has sparked some new insights and perhaps even inspired you to, dive deeper into your own faith journey.